This is day 778 of Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. I'd like to sponsor our coming share of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. Please come me directly, very greatly appreciated. Today we're doing Simon Tuf Pei Ches Siv Base to Tuf Pei Tes Siv Vav. Tuf Pei Ches Base. Aim of Sim Bahalo. On top of the Bahalo, El Kadesh Shalom Rup Kriyashma. Only to the extent that you can do by Kriyashma. The B'emtza Perik Meishol B'Shalom Avivu Rabo. Middle of a chapter, you can middle of a paragraph, you can answer to the for the honor or for the peace, not for the honor. Just stam inquiry of Aviv Rabo. No. Sorry, there's a show. Show B'Shalom Aviv Rabo Shetzarech Li'Roy Man. This is somebody who you have to have a mora from. You're allowed to inquire after them. You can respond to people, a distinguished person who gives shalom to you. Between the paragraphs, you can inquire the shalom of a distinguished person, and respond to anybody. We're showing this in the first days of 2 days of Pesach, in which we say the full halal. But other days, Adinam Rosh Chodesh, the halachas like Rosh Chodesh, Mizbar B'Simen Tav Chav Beis. In Pasuk B'Emtza B'Shah Afilu K'Dei Likmar Skula, if you interrupt in the middle and you tell it even after you finish the entire halal, and it goes to Rosh, you don't go back to building and the Makkah Shabasa, but to the place where you interrupted. These days, Bar La'el Simen Samachei Ein Sham. V'dai you should know the B'Halal Habaki Moti Sheno Baki. And how somebody who knows how well can exempt person who does know how well Shishomam Mimenu, when he hears it from him, Yotzi Dechoboso, and he fulfills the obligation. Yochli Yosef Hila Sora Korim, and it can be even 10 people reading together. Who Gushmav Yotze, and he can hear and be Yotze that way. Even though in laning we say if you're listening to 2 people once, you cannot make out what they're saying properly. It can't be Yotze. Come Bahalo, the Chaviva Bahalo, which is precious to people, so therefore they pay more attention and you can hear even if many people are saying it together. Gimel. After they finish Shachris, Mutim Shnei Sfarim, take out 2 Sifrei Torah. Coming back to Chamisha Gavri, Parshas Mishchu, you read 5 people get Aliyos in the Parsha of Mishchu, Ad Eretz Mitzrayim Matzivosam, which is in Shmos Yud Beis. You don't add on to the people, Kurim, you don't add on to Aliyos, Avgad Mikadim Mutalosif, even though according to strict letter of law you can add on, which custom is in Reish Pei Beis. Come Lona Gina Osif, nevertheless our custom is not to add on. And you we don't do Osafos. Kedasi Sham Rabbein Rama Sham. Ukshagomer Notel Sefer Torah Shnia. When you complete the first laning, you take the second Sefer Torah, Michal Shulchan, and on the table of Omer Kaddish or Shteim Zay Kaddish on both of them. Kayla Mafti B'Shnia, you read for the Mafti in the second Sefer Torah, Musaf Shal Pinchas, and the Musaf of Pinchas. After Pesach, Gilgal Yeshua on the first day is for the Pesach which Yeshua made in the Gilgal. Yeshua says that. The Shulchan Aruch actually says to be maftir in Baisahi, starting in Yeshua Hey Beis, and some people start being Yeshua these Miskosha, which is Gimel Hey, and that's the current custom. Mispan Musi that Musa Batil Machriz and Geshem, and then the Tzibur announces to say Geshem. Mishum the Einon Dar Lachrish Loemu Geshem. Well, sorry. Mispan Musa Batil Maskirin as a Geshem. You do say Geshem in Shemona Esrei, in the silent Shemona Esrei. He says interesting reason. It's not appropriate lachriz. On Sukkos Shmiyat Zeres, people make an announcement before the Musaf Shemona Esrei and say Mashi Baruch Mina Geshem, and then people say in the silent Shemona Esrei. But here it's not appropriate to make a statement that you shouldn't say Geshem, right? The Geshem bracha mean loy lachrish loy amar lefichach omrim. That's why you say it. Shots posek no to style. The Shnei Tzibur gives you a very broad hint. He says feels tal that you're not supposed to say Geshem anymore. Therefore, the Tzibur starts not saying Geshem by mincha. But the Geshem is by sim kuf yudalad. The halachos Geshem we're explaining kuf yudav gam poskim lamar. But saying Talmud of Cholamoid. This is also the time we stop saying Talmud. Of course, it's not relevant to Cholamoid. Mishnah Bura says a little bit different take here. He says even would it be appropriate for the shamash to say that they shouldn't say Geshem or Motar, but nevertheless, it is appropriate that the shamash should no, he says not that way. Sorry, Einacham. This story about on Chol Hamoed. He's saying that even though it would be appropriate for the shamash to announce before Mariv on the first day of Chol Hamoed, not to mention Geshem and Matar, nevertheless, it's real. It's not appropriate. It's not. Did I say that? It's not appropriate for him to make that announcement. So, but he should still remind people silently before Mariv, or write it on a piece of paper that they should say the same bracha. That's interesting. He extends it. The Arukh HaShulchan doesn't see that concern with the same bracha, perhaps because we're not. Perhaps because they're not mentioning Geshem explicitly, would say Talmud Motar, but in any event, the Mishnah is concerned not to make that announcement. I don't think it's such a problem because the first day, and according to Nusach Ashkenaz, many people don't say Morid Atol. They have to say, stop saying Rashi Baruch Mina Geshem, which is not a good thing to say. But on Chol Hamoed, you can just say, clap and say the same bracha, which is not, then it's a positive statement, not a negative statement. So I think that's why the Arukh HaShulchan probably was not concerned with this. We always say during Musaf that the appropriate karbanos, the psukim for the karbanos of the day. If you don't know it, it happened to me once many years ago. That I was that I had to Musaf somewhere where I didn't have a sinner. And the halacha is in that case, if you don't remember what the korban is, you just say Kamur, and then you go on, because you don't know, you don't. It's not market to say the specific. The korban, so he says in Lomar Eno Choser. If you didn't say it, don't go back and say it again, or don't go back and repeat anything in Shemona Esrei. Tough pay test. That was the Sfiras Omer which begin on the second night of Pesach. Aleph. So above today, right? Belel b'sheni shal Pesach on the second night of Pesach. It's palim arbis kinesmo. That might be like yesterday. V'achar tefillah and after davening. Maskilas b'Sfiras Omer. The Mishnah points out before Aleinu because it was reason mikdimim. The earlier you could say it, the better. I guess theory could say before Mara, but I guess it's kind of like Tartar Sasri of some sort. Anyway, so you start Sfiras Omer, like it says, the Shabbos start from after the Shabbos. And we learn after Shabbos means after the first day Yontav, and each person does his own Sfira. Since it doesn't say Yovel, you should count for you in the singular. That based in Kai, it's going to base in the plural. Shemami over this will include Kol Echad Echad Yisrael. It's going on each and every Jew. They have Masor. The Sfira Zu have a Sfira Mamish. The discounting is a literal counting. Yom Echad Yom Sheni. Say today is the first day, the second day. It's not like all the other spheres in the Torah. The sphere of Zav or Zava, even though that's an individual sphere, the Enakavan sphere Mamish, it's not that you have to literally have to count. You just have to keep track. Kind of have a sphere Mamish here, it's literal counting. Base. Most poskim is the sphere of Zan is Midrabanim. Most poskim of the sphere today is only the Rabbanim Shariach Shab. Like Omer today, there's no korban Omer, a sphere Shabbatar. No sphere korban Omer, korban Shleilechem. The whole point of the sphere in the Torah is to count from the korban Omer, the second day of Pesach, until the korban Shleilechem. Akshav lo shayach, then this is not relevant anymore. V'chein masha menachos shomer ameimar mani yomev lo mani shvui omar zech lemiktashu. Maybe it says you only count days and not weeks because it's only zech lemiktash. V'yishrash hamir dash will have choba. Counting is not obligatory though. Like Omer is no korban. Omer zech lemiktash is commemorative. Chlei akan l'shono. V'agada omru in Agadata it says that. Moshe told him we're going to serve God on this mountain. Jews said to him, Moshe ben when are we going to do this avoda? He said, after 50 days. Each person, according to this Chazal, counted the days for himself. From here, Chazal introduced Sfiras Omer. Today, when we don't bring a korban, we have no Omer. Elam Chashin, Chamishim Yom, we rather reckon 50 days. L'simcha satorah, to the celebration of the giving of the Torah. Moshe Yisrael says, "Man, like Am Yisrael did in that day and age." V'derech mechudash. I say V'derech drash. Sorry, V'derech drash. This is a novel idea, obviously, and it's a drush, not the literal understanding, because obviously, literally, it's the Rabbanan. Even this could still be the Rabbanan, and the Rabbanan reverted to the original account, which didn't have to do with the Korban Omer. But the primary understanding is with the Shazor Zech Mikdash. It's commemorative of the base of Mikdash. And Makom comes Mochiach Sheres Sfira Achshav the Rabbanan. But the fact that it says they went back to this original form of Sfira means it's only the Rabbanan regardless. Avalo came down to Rambam. So Perek between Din Chabez Del Shona. Rambam is the famous Das Yochid. That is the Raisa. He says mitzvah say lispor sheva shabbos is yom abayas omer. So mitzvah say to count 7 complete weeks, and they the omer is brought. Mitzvah kol ish misah b'chol makom. So this is in every Jew, in every place, of Chosman, all times. Women and slaves who are not chayim mitzvah say shazman grama are exempt from it. Akan l'shona. But because of she mitzvah say b'chol makom b'chosman, he writes mitzvah say to any place, any time. For Mishlam, Bagmar Farish, Bagmar, and the Pligam Arabazay, he holds it's a Machlaikas in the Gemara. That man, the money Yom Lo Shvei, I'm Yom count the days and not weeks. He holds Zem Rabbanan, Zechel Mikdash. He holds it's Rabbanan as a commemoration of Mikdash. Rabbi Rabbanan, Verabashi, Dami Mitzvah, Lamini Yom, Mitzvah Lamini Shvei. Moshe Osim, the Abayan Rabbanan, Verabashi, who say no, it's a mitzvah to count days and weeks, like we do. Savri, David, the Raisa, they hold the Raisa. Brasaka Rabbi and Paskin, like the majority of them are roim, 2 against 1. But I've got that in carbon, even though there's no carbon. They are really Matan Torah. Nevertheless, we can go back to that matter. We should say the primary sphere today is for Matan Torah. Like Beiso counted previously, according to that Medrash. Koshbol Tivul Avi Karbonas, but the Tchilas Aminyan, Me'oimer Asorim, B'sof Chitim, the Koshbol who this mitzvah which he gave us to bring on day 1 of the Omer carbon of barley, and the last day to bring carbon of wheat, la roast to teach us the vilti haTorah after the rain was need man shalachon sorry. If not for the Torah being given to us, which elevated us to the level of wheat, we would be on the level of animals which eat barley. Carbon soita minasarim. I think it's Arukh own drash, which is a nice one. That the carbon soda comes from the barley. He also she did the deeds of an animal. Therefore, her carbon is a carbon of an animal. Ayin Sham. When they accepted Torah, the Mutz Adam Leina, we received human form in the sense of the spiritual sense. That's why the carbon goes Adam, human food. That's the Torah commanded to count to the carbon. Okay, so that is, according to the Rambam's understanding, there's also this kind of drush and the Torah to count from carbon soil to carbon chitim, but the ikar kavana is the Torah, and that's why there's a mitzvah also in our day and age. It's well known, the famous Shita Lubavitch Rebbe, that when you count across the international date line, you have to keep 3 days Shavuos, because you always keep Shavuos according to your count. We still count today, certainly according to Ram. Now we can make that case very strongly, that the count is for each individual to make Shavuos when the 50th day comes out according to his count. So if you cross the day line, it comes out a day earlier, a day later, depending which direction you're going. And of course, you have to keep Minhag HaMakom, so it comes out 3 day Shavuos. If you got to count the beginning of the night, however, I can count the entire night. Mitzvah for everybody to count himself. Not to listen to the Shliach Tzibur. So the mitzvah of taking lulav is in every individual. So this mitzvah. But you can't answer a maid to the shots is bracha and biyotzu with his bracha. The counting is an independent obligation. You can count in any language, as long as you understand what you're saying. Some people hold you can yotze also when you listen for shots and from the chazan shebek koine, because when you hear it's like you're saying. The Rashba learning the Sfira. The Rashba is by the bracha, not about the Sfira. He goes, Rashi about some tshuva. Rashi himself writes that way in tshuva. Shishol asked him, Lama varech hashatz v'kol ram. Why do you make shlosh tzibur say bracha out loud? Lo chiv v'kol echad for him atzmo. Each and every person has chiv to make the bracha himself. And Shivi responded, Shechiv v'kol echad limnos latzmo. The obligation of the religious person to count for himself. Ava bracha yachol yishma b'shatz. But you can hear the bracha from the shliach tzibur ayin sham. This is the primary halacha. Mishmur makes both opinions. If you're here with your friend's sfira, it says Minhag Yisrael as each and every person makes the bracha for himself and counts to himself. It doesn't rely on the shliach tzibur. But yeah, you've heard from your friend, you should go back and count without a bracha. I guess later on that evening. I assume that because of the fake seikar, similar to when you count during the next day, this fake seikar suffix, whether etc. etc. If you did only hear from a person at the Sfira, you could still later on count, and we had it might be Yotze, still continue your count, even if you didn't count that day yourself. As I've seen, there are Dolei Torah who are choshesh that you could be Yotze with the Sfira of the Shliach Tzibur, and they don't wait for after the Shliach Tzibur says the Sfira in order to count, they count simultaneously with him. So they shouldn't be Yotze with the Shliach Tzibur. So it's one movement, you have to count standing up. Mishabur says you have to stand from the time, begin the bracha. They link this to a pasuk, which it says, B'kamah techel lispor. It says, B'achel chamesh b'kamah, kama techel lispor. The time that the harvest begins, you should, from the time that the harvest begins, you should start counting, but they darshan. So if it says kama techel lispor, standing up, you should count. Atki b'kama elab kuma. Right? When you don't say when the standing sheaf, standing grain, but when you rise. Primary reason says in Zohar, mishum nasriya inyan gadol k'tfil shmanesei. So it's a big thing. It's like shmanesei. Chein tzarich mumad. Everybody has to be standing up. In safar, yushav yatsa. If you count sitting down, you're yotze. Vanashim b'turas women are exempt from that mitzvah says shazman grama, because it's a mitzvah which is time contingent. Kokol nevertheless nagu v'arich limnos. Women do have a custom, although in many places women do not have this custom. It's not so simple. But Arukh HaShulchan says in the Valdik, the minhag was for women to make the bracha and to count. K'chol mitzvah says shazman grama, like any other mitzvah shazman grama shenashin nagos can run shofar v'sukkah like that women do, just like shofar sukkah. I believe there's a Ramban, very difficult Ramban, which says that it's almost not a mitzvah say shazman grama, and there's a lot of blunders on why the Ramban would say that and what the difference between his Firas Omers and other mitzvah say shazman grama. Mishabur says that in Radin, Seinu, he says women don't count. Okay, Shulchan Shlomo says that at least they shouldn't make a bracha. It's a chashash bracha b'tov. They forget to count. Men go to shul, so maybe they'll have a good chance of remembering. But women might forget in the middle or not be reminded. But there's a famous shita Lubavitch Rebbe about this too, that he holds that Tamimos means that as far as you get, you have to count day after day after day. So Tamimos doesn't mean all 50 days, but it means that day 25 has to follow 24, and 24 has to follow 23, etc. So it wouldn't be an issue bracha batola. Hey, Mevar Shekisham Mitzvah Tzivano Al Sfiras Omer. Better Baruch Shechianu make a Shechianu V'Shem Baruch Shechianu Al Mitzvah Sheish Bas Simcha. We only make a Shechianu Mitzvah Simcha B'Acha Adar. On the contrary, here must kin Atzar Shebatlon Min HaKarbanos. It's Zeichel HaMikdash, remembering that our anguish that we lack the Karbanos. Mitzvah Minei Yomei Mitzvah Minei Shavuos, supposed to count days and weeks. Shomer Yom Yom Echol Omer or Bo Omer. It doesn't seem to have a preference, unlike the Sidurim, which some of them which have Omer and some which have Be Omer. The Mishnah says most poskim hold to say La Omer, which I believe is the Nusach Ashkenaz. However, it really is only the Chatchila, and if you said even if you didn't say Ba Omer at all, you just said this is today is such and such, you're also Yotze. Okay. Anyway, Yom Shemim at Shiva. He said today is 2 days until you get 7 days. Over Shiva the 7th day, Omer Yom Shiva Yom Shem Shevachai say today's 7 days, which is 1 week. Which Mona Yom Shmona Yomim Shem Shevachai Yom Echad. They say 7 days, a week and 1 day. So too from there on in. Look, not like those who only count the week at the end of the week. Then okay, it's not true. You always say when you count in formal Hebrew, you count the smaller number first, not like in English, right? So it's not Esrim Ushnayim, it's Shnayim Ba'Esrim. Obviously, if you change it, it's not as aesthetic, but you are Yotze. If you count the only days, not weeks, you're Yotze. Mishnah distinguishes. He says, if on the 7th day you counted only days and not weeks, sometimes you say Yotze B'Yomid, but the evidence some people you have to go back and count again, and therefore you should go back and count without a bracha. If you forgot to go back and count it again, you should count the rest of the days of the bracha anyway. So obviously, it holds because the opinion that the weeks have to be counted in weeks, even though the other days don't. Only the whole weeks. 8 days, we said 8 days, and then say Shavua Echad, etc. You're Yotze regardless. Back to the Arukh HaShulchan. If you count just weeks, you're also fine. Those argue some the the weeks of that days doesn't work. Especially at the end of the week when there are no remainder of days. The Savi brachas lahakel, and therefore, if you only counted Shavuos, I guess you would not be considered something Yotze. You would have to desist from making the bracha Yarnin. Mishnah Berurah says you count Shavuos in that days, so you said B'Yom HaShvi on the 7th day, Yom Shavua Echad, you imagine the 7 days, Ebeholds are not Yotze, which is Arukh HaShulchan saying, similar to Arukh HaShulchan saying Savi brachas lahakel. You said Hayom Shavua Echad V'Yom Echad. He said today is Shavua Echad V'Yom Echad alone. You're Yotze. Well, that's not sure what he means by that. That seems to go on the 8th day, on the 7th day. Anyway, further. Miyuzeba the Shiach Zobi Nebula Bracha. You shouldn't go back and count without bracha. V'chein B'chol Safek Second Oto Safek go back count without a bracha. If you can hear a bracha, you're supposed to hear a bracha of somebody else, and to be might be Yotze the bracha is mechuyev. It's certainly appropriate to do so. Vav Hadel Zemona V'Holech you meant this Yom. This is the way you count the 49 days. Ad Asora Omim Yomim. Up to when you get up till 10, you say Yomim plural. Omim Yomim, and we say Yom singular. Shalom Yikev again is not an impediment with the Yevon. Achasfira after the Sfira say Omim Yiyot Son She Bada Beis Hamikdash. Maybe Beis Hamikdash rebuilt or Rachman Yalsir Abbas Beis Hakelim Kama. Most people do, or the Rachman. Some people say the Kapitel Samach 99. They Sheshba Mem Test Tables because there's 49 words. It's the Melchina Rucha. Some people had a long the supplication, the Rebbeinu Shalom, as we know. Yishpashef Harav. Marmin Yonim Misotariyim. And he had all sorts of mystical stuff. Chesed Shebechesed, Bur Shebechesed, etc. Many great people have to complain about this. These are things which are lofty. And it's not appropriate to widely disseminate the saying of things which are supposed to be very, very precise and understood in an appropriate way. So there's still a bit of a shtach chasidim, I think. People say it en masse and with tremendous fervor. Yes, there are people who do that. Okay. If it's done right.